Hello, everybody. We're live here from the birdhouse, and we are already in the month of August. So, we have a little update for you about some of the different birds people are seeing and some of the different cool bugs you guys are seeing in your gardens. So, as always, if you have questions, you can put those in the comments. We definitely always love to know what kind of things you're seeing. You can put your sightings in there too, or you can just say hi and let us know that you are watching. So, we will get started here. First of all, if you are local to the area, we do have some stuff going on here at the store. We have a plant sale going on today with Michael Hainan, and he is here today until about 4 o'clock or so, unless things sell out earlier. He does have a pretty good selection out there today, including some natives. I was checking it out. He's got things like bee balm out there. If you're looking for some native plants or hostas, he's got a big selection of different things. So that is going on today, which is Saturday the 2nd, until about 4 o'clock. So we've got the plant sale going on today. And then we have our first ever scratch and dent sale going on. We've got some items that have come in or have been slightly damaged in the store, so we can't sell them at full price. But they're still very, very good, and they're great for the garden or for the house, but we just can't sell them at full price. We don't feel right selling them at full price. So we are having a big sale of items, 50% off, whole bunch of random stuff. There's some bird feeders in there. There's some birding kind of accessories. We've got wall art. We've got lots and lots of garden art. We've got planters. We've got some drinkware. So there's a huge selection of things to choose from, and everything is 50% off. So that sale will be going on all week long. We just started it yesterday, so you still have time to come in and get some really good stuff. So this is the first time we're ever doing this, and there's some really good things in there. So we've got that going on. But as far as in the outdoors, you might be noticing there's some activity on your plants in the backyard. If you have this plant anywhere by you, common milkweed, that's a good plant to take a little bit of a closer look at, either the common milkweed, the swamp milkweed, or the butterfly weed, because there's been lots of monarch activity around, which is pretty exciting. So if you check those plants, you might find that there is a little egg on the underside of the leaf, or even the monarch butterfly caterpillars. They have what are called different larval instars as they hatch out of the egg, and they eat and eat. They grow and grow and grow. Every time they need to grow a little bit more, they will shed their skin, and those different stages of where they shed their skin to grow are called larval instars. So they have 5 different larval instars. The first one is very, very tiny. Then they'll shed their skin and become even larger with their second larval instar until they're a nice big, big caterpillar. So lots and lots of monarch caterpillars out there. You can raise them in your own. We do have the butterfly kits, like the little pop-up nets, if you are trying to raise them on your own, which is always good. You can kind of help protect them a bit from predators that way. But look at your milkweed for things like the monarch butterfly caterpillars, because they are out there. One way you can tell sometimes if you do have caterpillars is you look for the signs of the caterpillars, and because they're eating so much, it does come out the other end. There's lots of caterpillar poop out there, which has a fancy name called frass. And if you look at some of your plants, you might come across lots of this frass. I came across some milkweed that had a lot of this little frass on it. And lo and behold, it was covered in tiny little caterpillars. And so this is a milkweed plant. These aren't monarch butterfly caterpillars, but these are milkweed tussock moth caterpillars. And I mentioned these briefly on Tuesday as well, because not only, of course, are they on the milkweed right now, but they're also milkweed in big numbers. So when the milkweed tussock moth, when it lays its eggs, it lays a whole bunch of the eggs all at once on the milkweed plant, whereas the monarch butterfly will lay 1 egg at a time per plant. But the milkweed tussock moth will lay multiple eggs on the milkweed leaves. So you'll get a whole big grouping of the caterpillars all together. And so these are some really little ones that I came across, very, very tiny, but then they will also eat and eat and eat and grow. And this is what they end up looking like. Really, really fun and cool, funky looking caterpillars, pretty small, about an inch long or so, with this bright orange tufts, bright black, bright white tufts all over their body. So little fuzzy looking things. And if you disturb them, they tend to tumble off the leaves. So if you're trying to get a picture, be careful. Sometimes the caterpillars are really stuck on the leaf and they don't really move too much. Not these guys. These guys will tumble right off if you try or if you disturb them too much. But check out your milkweed plants because they might have something cool on them like this. And this is what the milkweed tussock moth looks like ultimately. So that is their final form, if you will. Still kind of the same colors, that bright orange, and they've got the black and white on them. Also, there are other types of bugs that call milkweed home. There's milkweed bugs, there's the giant milkweed bugs, and then there's also these red longhorn beetles, this isn't a great photo of one, but you might find these they almost look like really large ladybugs. They're red with black spots on the milkweed. These are really common to find on the milkweed, and if you look close, they have really, really long antennae, and so these are a type of longhorn beetle. So those are out there now too. So if you have the milkweed plant, sometimes nearby, you'll find there's another plant that looks a lot like the milkweed called dogbane that's around. Dogbane has red stems and it branches out, where if you think of the common milkweed, it's one single stalk per plant, or at least one stalk at a time. It doesn't branch out. Dogbane branches out. It can look kind of bushy. The leaves can look a lot like milkweed, but it's not. It's a totally different plant. But I mentioned that because that has, it tends to be kind of in the same spot as the common milkweed. And so here's kind of a picture showing the two different types. So the common milkweed, you can see it's got one single stalk with all the leaves coming out, but then the dogbane does branch out quite a bit more. But the dogbane has a really cool insect you might find on it called the Dogbane beetle. It's almost, it's a super, super iridescent colored beetle, really brightly colored. So if you're out in your garden looking for some interesting little organisms, look for the Dogbane beetle. Really, really neat. You can typically, if you find any kind of dogbane, you'll find the Dogbane beetles on them. Also, keep an eye out in your garden for the mimic of the monarch butterfly, which is the viceroy butterfly. Coloration is really, really similar. The viceroy butterfly is smaller than the monarch, and you can see it a little bit here in this photo. There is a line that goes through the hind wing of that butterfly, which the monarch does not have. So those are out and about right now too. And we are also getting people sending in pictures of this little creature. This is another type of moth you can find out in the world right now, the hickory tussock moth caterpillar. And these guys are kind of funky looking, and they can be kind of different colors too. Some of these tussock moth caterpillars are yellow, but they're very, very fuzzy, and they have these hairs that stick out that are that can be quite large. So those are out there right now too. You don't really want to touch any of these, both the hickory tussock moth or the milkweed tussock moth caterpillars. Those hairs can be irritating to your skin, so you don't want to. They're not the kind of thing that you'd want to pet. They're very, very fuzzy, but you don't want to touch them really because they can cause your skin to be irritated. So there's some pretty cool stuff out there right now as far as the caterpillars go. And I actually saw my first, last weekend, my first little woolly bear caterpillar, tiny, tiny little guy. I was weeding and I saw one scurry away. So they're out there now too, I guess. And you'll see them throughout the summer as they get larger. And more butterfly activity. We talked about the monarchs, but there's also swallowtails out there, like this tiger swallowtail photo that Karen took out by Canandaigua Lake. And I saw it in my yard this past week, which I was super, super surprised of. And it was so fast that there's no way I could even get a picture or a video. A giant swallowtail. And Karen's got a picture of one right here too. They're not super common. The tiger swallowtails, which is the picture here, or the butterfly here on the top of the photo, they're going to be more common, but we do have what's called a giant swallowtail around. When their wings are open, they're very black, and they have those yellow stripes that are going over their body. So those are out there too. So keep an eye out. You might just happen upon some of those. And there's also things like black swallowtails out there. There's spicebush swallowtail. So lots of fun, showy butterflies out there right now. Not to even mention the little butterflies that are out there flitting around right now too. And more caterpillar activity. This is a Luna moth caterpillar photo that was taken in. So you never know what you might find crawling around this time of the year. And then here's an interesting insect. I think this is a tiger bee fly that was sent in to us. And this is the bee flies are, they can be mimics of bees. They kind of resemble bees. They buzz around like bees. They kind of sound like bees, but they're actually a type of fly. And it can be hard to identify sometimes a fly versus a bee, especially when they're a mimic like this. But the bee flies, which are an actual fly, they're not a bee, they're not a stinging bee. They do have those big eyes, just like a housefly does. So that's one way you can identify them. Tiger bee flies you might find around your house or garden, especially if you have carpenter bees, because the tiger bee fly, the female will lay her eggs by the entrance of carpenter bee holes. And then when those eggs hatch, they actually will eat the sometimes the larva of the tiger or of the carpenter bees, or once those carpenter bees have pupated, once their larva has pupated, the tiger bee flies will eat those carpenter bee pupas. So this is a predator of the carpenter bee. So if you've got carpenter bees around and you don't really want them, and you see these guys buzzing around, these are your friend, the tiger bee flies. There's other types of bee flies. This one looks more like a bee, like an actual bee, but it is a fly. And you can see it's got those big, big eyes. And there's a lot of different mimics of bees, which are really cool. This is a robber fly that looks like a bumblebee, but it is in fact a type of fly. These guys are kind of nasty. They're very, very predatory on other insects. They fly around and grab other insects right out of the air, kind of like a dragonfly will. So you never know what you might see flying out there right now. Not to mention the things that are crawling around on the ground, things like salamanders and snakes. I came across this red eft and snapped a photo of it, which is a type of salamander. And this will one day turn into a red spotted newt, but it was crawling around on the dewy grass early one morning, and I was able to snap a photo of it. But as far as birds go, it's probably what you're here for. We've been getting lots of calls and reports and emails about bald birds. Right now is the time of the year where some species of birds, especially things like cardinals and blue jays, will molt all the feathers in their head all at once. Now, they don't all do this. Not every blue jay does it. Not every cardinal does it. Not every cardinal does it every year. But it does happen, and they can look very, very strange. They look like tiny little vultures almost. But it is a natural and not uncommon thing to come across. It just looks very, very startling when you see a bird like this that kind of looks like they might be sick, but they're not sick. It's all a natural thing that does happen. Those feathers will all molt at once, and then in a couple weeks, they will be back looking like normal. So don't be too shocked if you do come across something like this at your feeders right now. And if you're lucky enough to snap a photo of it, definitely send it in, because we'll share it here on the broadcast. But that happens every year, right around this time of the year, and it is a common and normal thing. I had a pretty cool sighting on my street. I've never had much luck getting pileated woodpeckers at my feeder, but for the first time I saw a pileated woodpecker in the neighborhood. And this is a video here of a pileated woodpecker right in the city street here, right down the road from my house. So I'm hoping it'll come and visit my suet feeder, but I'll play the video again. I think it might have been breaking up a little bit. But this is a pileated woodpecker pecking away at the bark on this one tree, and you can kind of see the bark start to fly away a little bit too. Not a very good video. I just took it with my phone. Whoops. Let's see. I can go back. There we go. So, a little grainy video there of a pileated woodpecker. Hummingbirds, though. So we've been talking about hummingbirds throughout the season, And we've been getting kind of lackluster reports that people aren't really seeing that many. That's been kind of the theme of the year. People were getting a ton of orioles, but not a lot of hummingbirds. But that seems to be changing, and myself included. All week I've been seeing hummingbirds coming to my flowers. I've been seeing them coming to my feeder. So it seems like they are starting to maybe take in more calories to get ready for their migration back down south. Plus, their young have fledged, and so it could be some of the young ones that are coming out to visit yards. So if you were kind of discouraged earlier in the season and took down your hummingbird feeders, I would suggest putting them back out, because they all of a sudden I wasn't having much luck with hummingbirds at all, and all of a sudden they're starting to make an appearance pretty frequently in my yard. Case in point, I was about to leave yesterday and I saw, here's another grainy video that I took of a little hummingbird that was visiting my bee balm in part of my messy garden, which you can see here on the side. It's a kind of a mess, but I'll play this. There was a little hummingbird just flitting around. See it right there. So I thought that was pretty exciting. So they've been coming around with pretty often. So it's been a fun week to see all those hummingbirds. But also keep an eye out on your hummingbird plants for this insect, the hummingbird clearwing moth. This is a day flying or diurnal moth that looks like a hummingbird. It hovers like a hummingbird. It goes to the same plants as the hummingbird does. So if you see something that looks kind of like a hummingbird but a little bit off, take a closer look. It could be this type of moth. And Baltimore oriole activity is still around, but probably spottier than it has been all season, because they are eating lots of insects. Those young are kind of a little bit more out in the world. They're not hovering over their parents so much. So Baltimore orioles are still around. They'll still be around throughout the rest of the month with some pretty good frequency, but they're not coming to feeders as often as they were. So if you're not seeing as much oriole activity, you might want to take down some of your oriole feeders and replace those with those hummingbird feeders, because those hummingbirds are thirsty and hungry and coming to plants and feeders. As far as things you guys are seeing, we've had some photos sent in. I love this series of photos of a green heron that was sent in by Mark, and we actually have 4 spots still open on our birding cruise for Tuesday, on Tuesday morning. So we do have 4 spots still open. If you want to look for birds like this green heron, I know there's been an osprey hanging out where the cruise is going to go by. There's been egrets seen, but I digress. These green heron photos sent in by Mark are really, really fun. He says, green heron, always entertaining with their expressions. So we'll be looking for things like green heron on that cruise. We do have the tickets available on our website, I should mention too. If you go to the event section of our website, click on the August Rivery Cruise, and you can buy tickets there. There's only 4 left. I just checked before we went live. So this green heron does have lots and lots of fun expressions, and I do love this series of a few photos here where you have the green heron. It's kind of perched, hanging out in the tree. And then if you look on the left, there's a little dragonfly that's flying in. That dragonfly perches, and the heron is very, very interested. And ultimately, the heron, that looks like a different type of dragonfly, but ultimately the heron gets its prize of a dragonfly snack. So they eat a lot of different things. Not only do they eat large insects like the dragonflies, they also eat, it looks like this one got a little fish. They'll eat amphibians. So they'll eat a pretty diverse amount of things that are by the water. But really cool set of photos there sent in by Mark of a green heron. They are quite fun to watch. And then he also had this photo that was sent in, juvenile northern rough-winged swallow waiting to be fed. This is another bird you can find by the water. And then some beautiful cedar waxwing photos. He says, cedar waxwing popped on the branch and left fast. Always fun to see flocks of them around. So really gorgeous cedar waxwing photos there. And lots of juvenile birds still out there. I saw a whole bunch of little fledgling chickadees yesterday, which was so, so cute. They were begging their parent for some food successfully. But things like Carolina wren, we've been hearing reports of young wrens out there. Here's a photo of a Carolina wren sent in by Cleon. And if you are trying to attract more birds like wrens, they also will eat things like mealworms and insects. Not only do they eat seeds, but they'll also eat lots of insects. They like sunflower hearts as well. And sometimes even suet. So the Carolina wren is becoming more and more common at feeders, and their range is expanding. They're starting to spend the winters here. So this is a bird that didn't used to be very common around here, but now is getting quite common. Then, of course, some of the mimics, you might hear them singing and calling, even sometimes at night. This is a northern mockingbird. It's got that really long tail. And when they're in flight, they have those bright white patches on their wings that will help you identify that that is a northern mockingbird. And their close relative, the gray catbird. Both of these photos were sent in by Cleon, who took that wren photo as well. And here's a gray catbird with one of its young. So their babies are out there in the world also. It's a really cool photo series there of the gray catbird feeding its baby. So thank you guys for watching. We always appreciate it. Looks like there are some comments here from you guys. Lynn is on and says, good morning. I saw a male oriole today after a big absence. Oh, that's great. That's awesome, because a lot of people have not been seeing them. She says, also, I love the copper disc for the bird bath. Keeps the water crystal clear. Yes, Lynn was in earlier in the week and we have these copper discs that you can put in your bird bath. And the copper will naturally keep the water clear, so you don't have to use as many of those bird bath enzymes. You don't have to clean it out as often. I've been really, really enjoying that copper disc in my bird bath as well. It's like a 4-inch round copper disc, $10. We've got them here at the store. You just put it in your bird bath, and copper will naturally keep things clean, and it works really well. And I'm glad that is working for you, and I'm glad that you're getting Orioles. That's really exciting. Lynn also says, I saw a giant swallowtail yesterday too. Awesome. So I know Lynn had some monarch butterflies in her yard at her swamp milkweed. So I'm wondering if those giant swallowtails were visiting those plants too. Amina is on and says, I love this channel. I just got into birding officially, long life bird watcher, and love the work you put into educating others about the most important hobby in science and animals we have. Oh, well, thank you so much. That is very, very kind of you. I do appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for watching. It looks like that's everybody's comments and questions for the day. You can join us live on the cruise on Tuesday if you haven't signed up yet. Like I said, there's a few tickets left. And then we will be back on Saturday with another live stream. Until then, you have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.